Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference reaction for Liverpool versus Manchester United with a Bruno Fernandes transfer update, because that's how we roll these days. I think everybody is refreshing their timeline all the time, waiting to see whether Manchester United will announce this signing. And before we get into some of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's comments in that press conference, which were very interesting around players coming in, captaincy, injuries as well, he was asked about Bruno Fernandes and he said, I'm not focused on that at the moment. I'm focused on this game against Liverpool, and I don't comment on players of other clubs. And I suppose that's the big thing with Bruno Fernandes today. There is a couple of stories coming out in England, one from the Daily Mail, which I wouldn't take too seriously. They're saying that United are ready to ramp up their efforts to sign Bruno Fernandes today. They don't want him to play tonight against Benfica, and they may pay £60 million for him. On top of that, Paulo Futre, who used to play for Portugal, he is saying that he doesn't think that Bruno Fernandes will play tonight. So very interested to see if Bruno Fernandes does play for Sporting Lisbon tonight against Benfica, or whether United can progress beyond that. I think it will be interesting, very much so, as to how that's going to work out. Also, let me just say this as well with regards to Bruno. The situation that we have with that is that there's a lot of talk that Manchester United are struggling to pay the price. There's a lot of talk that Manchester United are quite far away from them. I mean, I think, as we said last night, the reality is with Bruno Fernandes, I think he'll probably play in that match tonight, and then it's going to drag out over the weekend. I don't expect anything to be announced before Liverpool, because I think that Manchester United would quite like this to be a signing that's comes after the Liverpool game in case they lose. So I think that's probably going to happen with that. So we will see what's going to happen with it. But if we're arguing over 5 or 10 million, my point is always going to be this. We knew the January transfer window was coming. We knew we needed midfielders. Why was it not done on January the 1st? We've got games coming out of our ears, and this is a player that in those games could help us. He could make us 50 million in 5 months. In the summer, if we're in the top 4 or in Champions League football, he's made us 50 million. So there we go. Ollie Christian Hulk says, is Harry the new club captain? Yes, so Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press conference reaction with a bit of a Bruno Fernandes update, which I've just given you there. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer press reaction for the Liverpool versus Manchester United game. I think he came out, I'm going to start ranking Ollie's press conference. So I'm going to give him a strong 7 today. It wasn't the passionate Braveheart war cry I wanted it to be, but it certainly wasn't the submissive one I suspected it could be. I think it was pretty good. He was asked things like, Liverpool have been 30 years without a title. Could that happen to Manchester United? And he said, well, we're working on making sure that doesn't happen, which I think is good. He said about the intimidating atmosphere that might be there, that we've got to prepare and make sure that we're not intimidated by that. He also spoke about Brandon Williams potentially playing in a quite a big atmosphere against their front three, and said, look, Brandon Williams reminds me of Gary Neville. He's got the right mentality. I think he'll embrace it, which is good. But the key points are Marcus Rashford injury. Ollie is saying that he looks very doubtful, but there's 48 hours. This could be a smokescreen. I think this could be a real sign of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer starting to understand the role of Manchester United manager, because if Marcus Rashford is injured and he says, I think he's going to play, then Liverpool are aware that they're playing with an injured Marcus Rashford. If he says he's not going to play and then he plays, Liverpool gets sort of caught on the hop. I think Rashford's got to play in that game from a selfish fan point of view. If we want to get a result at Anfield, Rashford helps us in some might say it's a slim chance of getting a result anyway. Without Rashford, I think there's very little chance. I don't see it happening at all. But the issue is as well, and a lot of people were saying this last night, there was a talk that Rashford would play with pain reducing injections, and he'd play through the pain barrier, and that, from a selfish fan point of view, I mean, and Zed Jamie says it would be a massive risk to play him and it's not worth it. And Sporting manager confirms Bruno will play against Benfica, says John G. Thank you for that. It would be a risk to play Rashford. And a lot of people say this is the naivety of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because as fans, selfishly, we want Rashford to play. But as a manager, he's got to be looking at, it's 3 points against Liverpool. Even if we get a point, what if we don't beat Burnley because we haven't got Rashford? What if we get knocked out of the cup because we haven't got Rashford? What if Rashford's out for 6 weeks because of this, and we're out of everything, Europa and everything, just for playing him in this game? And that's management. That's That's not being a fan. A fan will go with their passion, will go with their heart. Management is more strategic, and maybe he does things like that. But also, what I would say is that I think we're in this vicious circle at Manchester United around injuries, and I think Marcus Rashford is yet another example of this. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if he can't play Rashford on Sunday, who's he going to play in the front three? Is he going to play James, Greenwood and Martial? Probably. He might play Jesse Lingard. God help us. He might play Tahith Chong. He's not ready for that sort of game. The lack of depth in the midfield and the attack is creating this vicious circle where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is overplaying players. And he overplays players because he wants to keep his job. He knows his job's in jeopardy. And if you know your job, if you know you could be sacked tomorrow, and Marcus Rashford is saying, I'll play, but I'm a little bit injured, are you going to go, no, I won't use you, and potentially get beat 5-0 and lose your job, or are you going to use him? I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in this position where he's overplaying players because he's naive and he's also desperate to keep his job. And on top of that, he's not getting the support. More importantly, he's not getting the support from the board. If he had Erling Haaland, or he had a replacement for Lukaku in the summer, he could have rotated Rashford and Martial a little bit more. But he doesn't. So he has to keep playing him. He's basically running Marcus Rashford into the ground. And we've been saying this since last March. He plays nearly every game and he goes off for England. He plays nearly every single game. He's always involved. He will probably be done by 28. His career will probably be done. Look at Wayne Rooney. You overplay a player and it catches up with them at the end. But also, they never play at 100% then. And they're always just massive amount of demand on them. We've seen it with Fred over Christmas. We've seen it with Harry Maguire as well. It's not just Marcus Rashford. We overplay our players because he's so desperate to get results to keep himself in the job. But it's a vicious circle because we will burn out and we will get injuries. And a lot of this comes down to the management. And I mean the board. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is so grateful to have this job and so desperate to keep this job. He hasn't got the power to go to the board and say, you're screwing me over. But they are. They're not giving him the resources. So it's a vicious circle with Rashford. And I selfishly want Rashford to play on Sunday because we will have a better chance with him. But I agree with a lot of people saying at some point you've got to start managing these players better in their fitness levels. Because, to be honest with you, Rashford could be rested for Liverpool and Burnley and the Cup game, come back for maybe Man City in 2 weeks and be playing at 90%. Or we could play him through all those games at 50%. And, you know, the maths are easy to work out, aren't they? So we'll have to see on Rashford. He says it's doubtful at the moment, but I would not be surprised to see Rashford playing on Sunday. He also spent Harry Maguire, captain of Manchester United now, officially captain of Manchester United. Ashley Young's gone. He said that it was an opportunity for Ashley Young to go. 2-year contract. We weren't willing to offer him a 2-year contract, and so we've let him go. This is just another bit of evidence of Manchester United allowing contracts to run down. We've spoken about it about Gomez and Chong, Herrera last year, Mata, Fellaini, Martial, De Gea, now Ashley Young, letting contracts run down, and the manager loses a player that he doesn't want to lose. Now, I'm not bothered about Ashley Young going, but I think we all know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't want him to go, and yet again another manager is a victim of our poor board who just let contracts run down and create instability in the dressing room. And that is instability when the club captain is leaving in the middle of the season, when you've got an injury crisis, whether you like Young or not. That's embarrassing. It's caused Ole a headache that he doesn't need, and again it's the board not backing the manager. He was asked if he's going to replace Ashley Young, basically said no. We've got Fosu Mensah and Dalot coming back. We've got cover at fullback. I don't think we have got cover at fullback, by the way. Dalot is very injury prone. Fosu Mensah's coming back from a major injury and also isn't proven at Premier League level, as has been proved by his loans with Fulham and Palace. So basically, we've got Brandon Williams, injury prone Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and then we're hoping that Dalot and Fosu Mensah can solve it. He hasn't got the cover he needs. He just knows he's not going to get a signing in the fullback position in January. That's what that was all about. Speaking of overplaying, Lindelof's been playing every game and has stepped up. Think he should get some credit for that, says Christopher Solberg. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Victor Lindelof. I think he, I don't know whether he's a world-class centre-back, but I think Lindelof has done well. But Harry Maguire will be Manchester United captain. And this is interesting because how quickly he's been given that captaincy. What do you think about Harry Maguire being captain of Manchester United? Because personally, I think that it's ridiculously soon to give him the captaincy of Manchester United. I don't feel that Harry Maguire has settled into that role yet. I still think that he's adjusting. It was only a month ago everyone was saying, he's not doing that well. And my point is on this, I like Harry Maguire. I would probably give him the captain's armband, but it just shows. Again, I mean, look, I'm happy Harry Maguire's got it. I do back Harry Maguire to get the captaincy. I think he's probably the best choice. But quite simply, it's embarrassing for Manchester United that they're having to give him the captaincy. He wasn't captain of Leicester. He's been at Manchester United for 5 months. He's not settled in yet. He's not playing consistently well yet. He has made some mistakes. Thought he played well against Wolves, but he has made some mistakes. He is now captain of the club, and he hasn't even had time. I just think what it shows is the total naivety in the way Manchester United Football Club is run. To give the captaincy to Harry Maguire when he's not even settled into a Manchester United shirt and he's still adjusting, to give him the captaincy as well, I think it's just stupidity. I really do. It's not Harry Maguire's fault, but it just shows that that club, as we've been saying for years, has got no leaders. How have we put ourselves into a situation where we've got no leaders? We were a club that was full of leaders. We had like 6 or 7 leaders in our starting 11 at one time. We've now got none, and we're so lacking leadership. We've got to give it to a new signing who's been here for 5 months. So I think Harry Maguire is probably the best choice, but that's because there is nobody else. And it was quite rightly mentioned in the press conference. I think he's one of the first Manchester United captains to be given the captaincy after such a short period of time. Cantona, Keane, they didn't get the captaincy at that point. So I think he's the right choice, but I think it just evidences what a lot of you say, that team lacks leadership, very much so. I think he probably is the right person, but he's not settled into the job yet. I mean, I still think he's shaky as a centre-back for Manchester United because he's still adjusting. And I hope that the captaincy can make him more consistent, but I do think he is a little bit inconsistent. I mean, talking about Lindelof, I think Lindelof has had the better last 2 months than Harry Maguire, and I like Harry Maguire, but I just think the captaincy could be adding a lot more. Well, no, it's not could. It is adding a lot more responsibility to a player that I watch and think hasn't actually delivered. He's not scored a goal yet. He's not looked like scoring goals yet. And that's what we bought him for, really. So there's a lot to Harry Maguire's game that we haven't actually seen yet, is what I'm trying to say. Why didn't David De Gea become captain instead of Harry, says Ole Christian. I mean, I'm not a big fan of goalkeepers getting the captaincy, to be honest with you. I don't know about you lot. And apparently the club were not happy with David De Gea when he came out in August after a game and said that's not good enough. They didn't like that, and he's never been captain since. That was leaked at the time, and it is obviously true. Liverpool, can we beat Liverpool? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says, look, we went to Man City and won. We went to PSG and won. We've got to go and do that again. Klopp has said that United just defend against him. And Ole said, well, I take that as a compliment. If you're frustrating and defending well, then that's a good thing that you're frustrating the opposition. He was then mentioned that Manchester United's front three of Greenwood, Martial and Rashford have scored more goals than Salah, Firmino and Mane. So, does that show that we're not a defensive side? And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think, sort of answered that quite well, actually, because he said, well, yeah, look, they're an established front three. My front three haven't really played them that much together. I think the first time they did against Newcastle, they scored 4 goals, so maybe I should do it more. But they're building their relationship. But what he quite rightly said is, Liverpool have scored a lot more goals than us beyond their front three, and that's what we need to work on. And he's right. Just because our front three have scored more than the Liverpool front three doesn't mean we're an attacking side. It means we're good at hitting teams on the break. We don't get many goals from midfield because we don't create through the midfield, and Liverpool have been far, far better at that. So I thought Ole answered that quite honestly. I think Ole is under no circumstances underestimating what Sunday's going to be. But I think he's going into it, hopefully, with the right attitude. Because I think we can get something. It's going to be very, very hard, but I think we can get something out of it if we're focused and we have the right attitude and we have the right game plan. We've got to keep a clean sheet, as I said on the preview last night, which you can check out on the homepage. But, yeah, I mean, they're the 3 bits of news from Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this morning. Marcus Rashford's very doubtful. Harry Maguire is the captain, and he will remain the captain. Ashley Young is gone, and the Bruno Fernandes thing, Ole does not want to be brought into at all at the moment. Ethan Lunt says, I think it's a bit early for Slabhead, even though he shows the traits of a leader, but surely De Gea gets it, given he's been at the club for so long. Yeah, well, look, the rumour is that United would never give it to De Gea because of what he said. Sen Gaming Boy says, in my opinion, as a goalkeeper myself, I say that the goalie could be the perfect captain, as a goalkeeper's role is already to be a leader, seeing the entire pitch, being able to take control. But I've got to be honest, I don't think David De Gea is a captain. I don't think he is. He doesn't strike me as a captain personality, and I think this is the problem that runs right the way through the Manchester United squad that forces. I mean, if it's not going to be Harry Maguire, who should be captain of Manchester United? Name me a player in that squad that shows any leadership skills at all. I don't think Ashley Young was a very good captain. I think Lindelof showed traits at times of potentially doing it, but I think that it is an embarrassing position that Manchester United have got a lot of experienced players. Jesse Lingard, Nemanja Matic, Phil Jones, Ashley Young was here, Juan Mata. None of them are captain material. And funnily enough, Bruno Fernandes does captain Sporting Lisbon. We need to start... It's one of the things United need to look at, whether they're buying 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds. I would definitely be looking at personalities with leaders, because even if Harry Maguire becomes a really good captain for United, you still need 2 or 3 other leaders in the team. And if you look at that Liverpool side, there's leaders in that team. You know, there are 3 or 4 leaders in that team. Same with Manchester City. Most teams have got leaders in their team, and we've lacked this for years. We've spoken about it for years. So, yeah, I think it is a bit desperate giving it to Harry Maguire, but he's probably the right personality to have it. I just worry that he's getting it a little bit too soon. He's the right choice. I think Harry Maguire is the right choice, and I wish him all the best. I just think it's desperate that you're giving it to a player who's only been here 5 months and clearly hasn't settled into his own role. And one of the things I always said about Rooney as captain is he became so focused on being a captain, he lost his own role. And because it's hard to be a captain and be a player. And Harry Maguire has not settled in as a player yet. And I think before you get the captain's armband, you should already be settled in as a player and persistently pulling in 8 out of 10 every week. And I haven't seen many 8 out of 10 performances from Harry Maguire yet. So giving him the added responsibility of the captaincy, it's something else he's got to concern himself with. Laird is 2 times better than Young. He needs a chance, says Jamie Voss. Well, he is a good player coming through, another good young player coming through. Rashford as captain, no. I want Marcus Rashford to focus on skinning fullbacks and scoring goals. I don't want him to focus on being a captain at his age. Scott McTominay behaves like a captain, says Ollie Christian Holt. Well, he is potentially one for the future as well. That's another one who has got some potential. And other people are saying, what about Axel Tuanzebe? Maybe in the future as well. I think we need 4 or 5 is what we need to build towards. Bruno Fernandes update, because I know a lot of people probably missed the start of the video. There is talk of the Bruno Fernandes deal being in doubt. I think it would be wrong not to say that. And this appears to be because of the fee, which we were talking about last night. Some stories say it's 5 million. Some people say Bruno Fernandes, Sporting Lisbon wants 60. United only want to play 42. Ridiculous add-ons again. If United win the Premier League, if United win the Champions League, which we don't look like doing. Also, there's this match tonight, Sporting Lisbon against Benfica. So that's going to be interesting. In fact, I'm thinking of doing a watch-along for that tonight if he does play in that. But obviously it depends on whether he plays and how likely he is coming to Manchester United. What I would say on Bruno Fernandes is this. This reminds me of Aaron Wan-Bissaka now. There is no... The difference between Bruno Fernandes in the summer and the difference now is that in the summer it was a lot of speculation and there was never a credible public source saying that United were in for him. There are plenty now. So we know that United are negotiating for Bruno Fernandes 100%. They would have quashed this like they quashed Eriksen 10 days ago. They are definitely in for him and they are definitely negotiating for him. That is why it's similar to Wan-Bissaka, because we knew last June we was negotiating with Wan-Bissaka. Remember, he was playing in the Under-20s World Cup or something like that. We knew we were negotiating, and there were stories coming out that United want to pay 35, but Crystal Palace wanted 50, and there was arguments about add-ons. And it went on for a bit of time, and then it got announced. So I think exactly the same thing is going to happen. Negotiation, it will happen. But what I'll say is what I said last night. I said Wan-Bissaka was worth 50 million and we should have paid it, and we did in the end. Bruno Fernandes is worth 60 million. If United are negotiating and refusing to go above 50, whoever's doing the negotiating is a clown and does not understand football. Your valuation of players is off. You're trying to get players for cheap when their valuation is right. Sporting Lisbon are right to want £60 million for Bruno Fernandes. If you've watched what he's done over the last 2 seasons, he's a £60 million player. Without question, he's 25, he's the captain of that club, he's their best player, he plays for Portugal, he's consistently doing it in Europe, for his country and in that league. He's a £60 million player. Of course there's a risk, there's always a risk, but he is a £60 million player. So if we're negotiating as low as 42 million, we've got idiots. But I hear that a lot. I hear that the people involved in Manchester United negotiations are idiots. So, but I do think it will still happen. I think people are panicking, but the difference with this is we know officially that United are negotiating this deal. It's not like Schneider or Vidal or any other player or Fernandes last year where a lot of paper talk, but we never really knew whether we were in for him. We know we're in for him. And if United mess this up, they're going to have to deal with the whole fan base knowing they've turned their back on what would be a very good signing for it. The perfect signing for us. You know, I think that's almost been lost. It's almost been lost, hasn't it? And I've always said, every week of this season, I've said it after every game, we'll miss not signing Bruno Fernandes in the summer every week of this season. He's perfect. And even I, probably Bruno Fernandes' #1 fan, have lost that focus that the player in our team is perfect, because we've all got drawn into this long transfer saga. Yet again, the passion killers are there, sucking the life out of the joy of this signing, dragging it out. And as I said, it's disgusting, because what if we'd lost to Wolves on Wednesday? What if we lose to Liverpool and Burnley and Bruno Fernandes isn't playing in those games? We could have had this player in on January the 1st, but we negotiate the joy out of any deal and we drag it out, and to save 5 million, we could be out of the top 4 race and out of the cup by the time we actually sign him. It's ridiculous, because we're not a football club, we're a business, and it gets on my nerves how we negotiate things down. And even if we do sign him for 50 million, why should United fans care? Oh, we've saved 10 million. That's going into the bloody Glazers' pocket anyway. So it's very, very frustrating. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But look, thanks everyone for watching. Please do smash a like on the video. I will go live if there is anything else to go live about today. But we've got a very good interview with Andy Cole, actually. That might go at lunchtime. We'll see how we can get that edited. He's talking about Bruno Fernandes as well. If you type up Bruno Fernandes on Google, it says he's a midfielder for Manchester United. I'm not lying, says Jack Gaming. Yeah, but Google doesn't always tell the truth, Jack, does it? Thanks everyone for watching. If there is any breaking, we'll go live. Make sure you subscribe, get your notifications on, bottom right hand corner. Smash us a like and get in the comments. Do you think Rashford will play on Sunday? Do you think Harry Maguire should be captain? Are you still confident we'll sign Bruno Fernandes? What do you feel about Ashley Young now he's gone? Thanks for watching. Superb as ever. I'll speak to you later.